I'm David.
I'm Corey, and this is our point of view.
Okay, Corey. I got a question for you about the middle class.
Okay.
Do you think the middle class exists in today's society?
I think on paper, as far as stat-wise, it probably exists. They rig it up to exist, but I don't think it necessarily exists, though.
If millions of people, though, are living paycheck to paycheck, and they talk about how well the economy's doing, 3.9% unemployment, economy's really doing well,
right.
Stock market's up, but yet you've got the majority of Americans that live paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Is the economy really doing good for them?
No. And I'm one of those majority that live paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Right.
Me also. But so 90% of Americans probably live paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
So what are they basing the middle class on now?
I'm thinking more or less it may be jobs, the jobs that's available that people are working. You know, even though you live in paycheck to paycheck, they may look at it, well, you have a job versus people that don't have a job. So the economy is doing better. We have jobs that's available now versus we didn't have jobs that were available. So that may be what it is.
So you think that might be what they assume would be a middle class?
Right.
Just
right.
having a job?
Just having a job. What do you think?
I don't think there is a middle class that exists unless you have moved the threshold of a middle class.
Right.
Unless you say $300,000 annually is now middle class.
Right.
That's the only way you could justify to say you have a middle class. But if you have a middle class, you're supposed to be able to have a little extra capital. You're supposed to be able to have some money to, say, send your child to college, to
go on vacation.
To go on vacation
right.
once a year, to an actual real vacation.
Right.
But if the 90% of Americans can't do that, then the middle class is a very small percentage of people in the United States.
Right.
So pretty much the middle class is non-existent.
So why do you think they say that then?
Why do they say that there is
a middle class, right?
To have you chase that carrot.
That's what it is.
That they're here. There's something here for you.
Dangling in front. Okay.
Yeah, you're almost there.
Right.
You're almost there. You just have to try more.
Right.
You have to try a little harder.
I got you.
That's the way it strikes me. Is that it's just something dangled in front of you to chase after.
I got you.
But I don't think it actually exists because it can't. If people have say an incident or accident that puts them $400 in a hole, most people can't afford a $400 emergency.
Right, absolutely.
So how could you even say that just because you have a job that makes you middle class, when a $400 emergency will put you
throws everything out of whack?
Throws everything out of whack.
I have no idea. I don't know why they made that statement.
So I just don't believe. I just don't see how they can even consider if they are considering a middle class group. It's very limited now.
Right.
I would say.
What's the criteria for being a middle class?
Exactly.
Right.
That's why I said it has to be earning $200,000 a year, because that is the only way that you could consider yourself middle class. Having a home, a vehicle,
right.
extra capital to eat out.
Absolutely.
Go on an actual vacation. You can't do it otherwise. Otherwise, the majority of Americans, you are not middle class. The majority of Americans are working class poor.
Right.
Just on the verge of an incident, putting them on the other side of the fence from being poor.
Right. Right.
But I think maybe that's the way they want it. Because that's a carrot to dangle in front of you just to keep your head above water, to keep you treading water.
Right.
Is that you got to chase it because you know if you slip up a little, there's a gap in what you earn and all the bills that come due. You can't have it.
Right.
So, as far as keeping you working and showing up and things, that's the motivation for it, because they're almost guaranteed that you will. What other option do you have?
Right. Other than work.
Right. If you're living paycheck to paycheck,
right.
You can't afford to go a certain extended amount of time with no paycheck.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can't
Absolutely. Right. I've seen it firsthand.
Right.
I've seen it firsthand. Working, whether you're sick and you need time off, you're not able to take that time off, Because if you miss a day, you thinking about what bill you can't pay.
Right.
Right. I've seen it firsthand.
And how's that good for let's say Americans in general? Like you just brought up the point of working sick.
Right.
Could you not end up causing an epidemic, even if it's small, just confined to your work and the employees there
right.
and their family members
Absolutely.
and their family members?
Absolutely, it's possible.
Because you had to show up because you can't have this gap.
Right.
You can't survive a week or two gap
right.
of pay.
That's a lot of us. That is a lot of us. Right.
So you put people in jeopardy, health wise, safety wise, by having this new criteria.
Right. I absolutely agree.
So I think it has to change though. You can't.
But will it change? I doubt it. You got to practice this working. It won't change. There's no need for it to change.
But many of the people that don't involve themselves in change are suffering the same way.
Right.
But if I see it and you see it, how are they missing it?
But a lot of people don't know how to go about changing it, though. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
it sounds good, yeah. We're the working poor, and we need to change, but you don't have the tools to change.
Right.
And then you may not be in the situation to change it once you do get the tools.
Well, I say you can't. You have to put yourself in the situation to change it.
Right.
Yeah, basically nobody's in a position to change it, you know, in your everyday environment.
Right.
But who you elect, who you
right.
support,
absolutely.
Maybe outside of work, what other things you could do to kind of try to change the atmosphere,
right.
no matter how small it is. I think it's a step in the right direction, rather, you know, as opposed to just accepting it.
Right.
And I think that happens too. I think so many people are just like you just said, this is the way it is, you can't change it.
Mm.
Well, of course you can't change it if you have accepted it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can't change something that if you have now accepted that this is reality, this is the way it is.
Right.
We can't do anything.
Right. Well, I'm all for change. You know that.
Now, what if people back in history though had said the same thing?
Right.
What if
we'd be in a rut. We'd be in a worse rut.
What if Rosa Parks had said, you know what, well, I can't change anything. What difference does it make where I sit on a bus?
Right.
Just because I changed my seat on a bus, what difference is that going to make?
Absolutely.
So you would think something small as that shouldn't make any difference.
Right. Right.
But yet it did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I'm for change.
Yeah. I just think people got to get out of that mindset of what you're just saying, where in my position, I can't do anything to change it.
I fully agree with you. I'm for change, and people that know me know I'm for change. But it's a lot of people, they're getting beat up, man. And I mean, you know, the solution, it sounds good, but actually putting it in motion, you know what I'm saying? That's where the disconnect is. Right. You know what I'm saying? You can give them the tools, you can show them the direction, how to change, but actually putting it in motion. You know what I'm saying? We're a creature of habit.
Right. Yeah.
So as far as changing it up, it's a disconnect for some people.
But I would think, like I said, participating in voting.
Right.
Because you have such a low participation in voting that people are, as you say, like so beat down and have given up.
Right.
How do you strive through life where you've given up? I mean, what motivates you just to do anything if you've already given up?
Absolutely. But, I mean, you find people in that situation. You find a lot of people, right, you find a lot of people in that situation. You'll find people that want change but yet won't vote and then complain. It's just we're in a dire situation, man.
Do you think it was like manipulated to believe that? Was there some? I don't want to use the word conspiracy. Was there some ideology that convinced people like you can't really change things? This is just the way it is. Do you think it was like something spread by somebody else to get people to believe it so that they would feel more like, well, I can't really do anything, so why bother?
I truly believe it was. I do believe that. I believe it was not necessarily a situation. I think more or less it's a movement that sparked it, and it caught fire. And now it's just people are so beat up and desperate and scared that, you know what I'm saying, they'll accept whatever you give them. You know what I'm saying?
So they're almost like a starving person. They wouldn't care what they're eating as long as you gave them something to eat.
Absolutely.
I
You couldn't agree with that? You ever seen situations like that?
Yeah, I understand it, but I just say, why do so many feel that way? It seems odd to me. I could see where a handful of people would feel that way, but you have millions that feel that way. How is that perpetuated? How is that perpetuated through society that so many people believe there's nothing you can do? Well, what is it that they see that I don't? I say that you can change things, even small changes or something. Even like shooting this video is something.
Right, absolutely.
People may discard it as nothing, just two guys simply talking about something that some people care about, some people don't.
Right. Well, we invoking change doing this though.
Right, but you're saying something.
I don't know. I can't answer it for him. I mean, I feel like I've been in that situation. It's just something inside of you. You gotta want to change your situation. Some people, I've been to the point where I was so beat up, I felt like I wanted to change. I didn't know how to change, but I still went along with it. Right. You know what I'm saying? I kept my head down. I went along with it.
Well, I think that's the majority of Americans. You go along with it for now because you feel there's no option. But to think that this is the way it's supposed to be.
Right. You know it's not the way it's supposed to be, but you don't know.
But do some people know it?
A lot of people know it.
There's my problem.
Right.
I think not everybody knows that this isn't the way it's supposed to be. I think some people have maybe convinced themselves, yes, this is how it's supposed to be.
That could be possible. But a lot of people know it's not how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Right.
Okay. We'll be moving on to another topic shortly. We're going to end this one on that note.
I'm Corey.
I'm David.
And this is our point of view.
I'm David.
I'm Corey. And this is our point of view.
All right, Corey. I want to talk about the evolution of selfishness.
Okay.
Do you think it's societal? Do you think it's maybe part of how capitalism has grown?
I think it's a combination of all those aspects. I do. Society tells you, you know what I'm saying, that's yours. You know what I'm saying, protect it with your life. You know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily think that we were born selfish. I think we were programmed to be selfish. You know what I'm saying, from an early age. You know.
So you believe it's more of like a culture and society?
Right. I truly believe that. Like when you're small, this is yours. You can play with this. You know what I'm saying?
But aren't you taught to share when you're small?
Yeah, to a certain extent.
I mean, in the classroom, say you were even in let's just say kindergarten, for example.
Right.
You're taught that you can have this is a play area.
Right.
But you have to share these toys with the other children.
Right. But then too, in the same breath, sometimes you're given things and these are your things, so don't share this with anybody. You know what I'm saying? I remember as a small kid, like my parents would call me in. Excuse me. This is your ice cream. When you go outside, don't share it with anybody. You know what I'm saying? Or this is your bike. You know what I'm saying? Don't let nobody ride your bike. I know everybody can relate to that.
Well, what would you think would prompt somebody to say that, though? That this is yours, don't share it with anybody?
I don't know. Maybe teach you the value of your stuff or I don't know. It could be anything.
I'm not advocating not to
right. I don't know what their motivation are. Right.
You have what is yours, what you have acquired.
Right.
I mean, that's just common sense. You've earned it or whatever, and you've acquired it. However, it's yours.
Right.
But to think that everything has to be done that way. I mean, I understand it's this and that you can set aside and say, okay, this is mine. But it seems like everything is, I got to get this. I don't care how I get it. Such selfishness to say, step on a coworker to get yourself further along.
Right.
That's a selfish act.
I don't know why we're programmed. Like, say hypothetically, if I know of a job, right, you know, I've been programmed, apply for the job, secure the job, then make you aware of it. You know what I'm saying? So that's part of being selfish.
Is that maybe that? But is that like a fear of competition? Maybe that
could be
that if I let you know prior to me getting this job,
right.
I might end up
one more person I gotta be right for the
to
position.
get this job.
Right, absolutely.
Well, see, now I don't think like that's a sense of selfishness.
You know,
I think that's a sense of perhaps you're just trying to better yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's true. It's just common sense that if I have less competition, that creates a better odds for me to get this job. The more competition I have, my odds go down of getting this job.
Right. I don't know.
But I would say things like, as far as like, if you're a coworker, if I feel like, well, if I snitch on him or point out when he does wrong things, just so I can get maybe you have a position higher than mine.
Right.
And I feel as though if I can point out some of the wrong that you're doing, then I can
elevate
get that.
yourself.
Yeah, elevate myself.
Right. It could be possible. It could be possible. I don't know what their motivations are.
Now, is like I said, you're not usually brought up that way, or most people I would say is not. You brought up, like I said, as far as sharing things and.
I think to a certain degree.
Right, of what you can share.
Right.
But you don't feel like that you should be dominant, or do you?
I don't. I think it depends on how you're brought up, in a sense. Like as far as me, you know what I'm saying, I was brought up poor.
Right.
So you know, as far as my things, you know, I had to cherish them. Not let anybody play with them, or because you never know when I'm getting anything else new. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I mean, it's instilled in you in a young age, certain people, and then it just progressed. You know, I think.
So you think it makes it more difficult like that, where you've procured something that was hard for you to get,
right?
And now you're more protective over it
right.
because it was harder for you to get,
right? Right.
So then you would think people that are wealthy, that acquire a lot of things, that they wouldn't mind sharing them because they have.
I don't think it works like that.
They have plenty.
I don't think it works like that. They still.
Why
have
doesn't
that,
it work like that?
I don't know, because they still have that mentality. It's mine, mine, mine. I don't want to share it. It's mine, mine,
But
mine.
see, then that theory that you were just speaking of,
right.
where it was hard for me to cure this, so now I have to hold on to it.
Right.
But if you cure things easily, in great numbers,
right.
Why would you still feel the need to hold on to so many? What causes that kind of greedy mentality?
The individual. I think the individual and how they were brought up.
Is it how they brought up, or
right.
is it some of how the society is, how capitalism is?
It could be from the time they were brought up, or it could be from the time where they start becoming successful, and it could be a range of things.
So do you? I mean, I understand. Yeah, it can be many factors.
Right.
But I'm just asking. I'm just trying for us to put our heads together.
Right.
What you have two different situations, like you just said. A poor person only acquiring a few things and didn't really value those items.
Right.
Where, say, a wealthy person acquires many of those things, but still has the same mentality to want to hold on to, even though they may not. And chances are don't value them as much as you value them.
Right.
So is that just a sense of perhaps they think they deserve it more than somebody else? That I deserve all these, you deserve that one, and I deserve these 50.
It could be possible.
And like I said, in cases it can be how your parents, brought you up,
right.
How you were reared, that
right.
This is your thought process, or it could be like how capitalism is the dark side of capitalism. Not all capitalism is bad, but the greedy aspect of it. That the more I acquire and the more I have, it doesn't matter how I get it.
Right.
Where I think maybe there's some people that even don't acquire a lot, I think they were sometimes more apt to care about how they get it, as opposed to some people that are wealthy who think it should be given to them anyway, and they don't care who it harms for them to get what they need.
Mm.
Now, I'm not saying like some poor people don't think that way too. That I don't care who I hurt as long as I get what I want.
Right.
But I would say, since we're in the working class, most people around aren't like that. or I haven't noticed that they're like, I'm going to get mine. I don't care who gets hurt while I get mine. But it seems like the higher up you go in society, that becomes almost the ideal way to be.
Right.
Is I don't care who gets harmed as long as I get this extra.
Right. So do you think they born like that? The situations make them like that, or what?
I'm thinking like you say. I believe that some are born that way because their parents reared them that way. That it doesn't matter to have that sense of callousness.
Right.
And some may have, to me, may even have a mental illness. But some of them may tend to be a bit psychopathic.
Right.
That I'm harming somebody, but they'll bounce back or whatever. But I gotta do.
It's me.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not thinking about what I'm doing to them. I have to take care of myself. I have to cure more. I have to have more.
Right.
So I don't care if they're harmed because I need this. I need it for whether it's to make me a CEO of a company or to make me the processing room supervisor or whatever criteria drives that. You have to have a bit of a psychopathic tendency to want to push people aside and harm them just to get what you want.
Now, let me ask you something. So, by you saying that if you feel like they have a certain type of mental illness, can you blame them? Are they accountable for the stuff they do, even though they have a mental illness?
I don't necessarily say you would blame that person. Because if you have a mental illness and you're not aware of it, then no, I don't see how that. I wouldn't fault them for it. Perhaps if I was in their situation, maybe I would think the same way that they would, to an extent. But see, I wouldn't feel the need to harm people to get what I need, or to cure more. Right.
So if you knew an individual that fit that criteria that you were speaking about, and they just threw people under the bus to advance themselves. You know what I'm saying? Are they accountable for their actions? Can you blame? Say, well, look, this person they have a mental problem. You know what I'm saying? They'll do whatever it takes to get on top. You know what I'm saying? You got to be more lenient with them. What do you think?
I would say be more lenient with them, but if they do have such an illness, can you fault them? Probably not.
Not really.
Not really. If it's a diagnosed mental illness,
right? So they have to be diagnosed.
Yeah, because you can't. Well, you wouldn't know it's a mental illness till somebody comes forth and proves that it's a mental illness. Some people just act crazy, and they may be perfectly sane.
Okay. All right. I just want to understand.
But it's just, to me, the people at the top with those tendencies, maybe you have to have that certain strain of psychopathic tendencies in order to get to where you were or where you currently are.
Okay.
But if, like I said, if it is a mental illness, you don't blame the person that's sick, but you do blame how you fix it. Something like that can be fixed. Like, say for instance, that you can earn, a CEO can earn, let's just say $2 million a year, but he can't earn, say, no more than 30% more than the bottom person working at that establishment. Whatever if his goes up to $3 million a year, then you have to boost up to keep the difference 30%.
Right.
But if you allow it to extend to where it's 300% more than the bottom person, you're feeding into that type of psychology. And that's something you're doing intentionally. That's not an illness that this kind of actions are accepted. That's not an illness.
Right.
Lawmakers could close that gap if they choose. Because you can't sit and say every lawmaker has a mental illness.
Right.
To close that gap.
Right.
Like I said, even though that person at the top has that psychopathic tendency, it's up to people around them to rein it in.
I'm quite sure some people may view it as an illness, and some people may view it as I just want to succeed at all costs. So.
Well, that to me is an illness.
Right. But we'll leave it at that, though.
Okay. All right, we'll end it there. This has been David.
I'm Corey. And this is our point of